Genesis chapter 2, verses 18 through 25. God's word says, "The Lord God said, it is not good for the man to be alone. I will make a helper suitable for him. And the Lord God had formed out of the ground all the wild animals and all the birds of the sky. He brought them to the man to see what he would name them, and whatever the man called each living creature, that was its name. So the man gave names to all the livestock, the birds of the sky, and all the wild animals. But for Adam, no suitable helper was found. So the Lord God caused the man to fall into a deep sleep, and while he was sleeping, he took one of the man's ribs and then closed up the place with flesh. Then the Lord God made a woman from the rib he had taken out of the man, and he brought her to the man. The man said, this is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, for she was taken out of man. That is why a man leaves his father and mother and is united to his wife, and they become one flesh. Adam and his wife were both naked, and they felt no shame." May God bless us as we would read and hear his word to us this morning. It's interesting to find out what kids think about marriage. When asked how you decide who to marry, Kristen, age 10, answered this way. She said, "No person really decides before they grow up who they're going to marry. God decides it all way before, and you get to find out later who you're stuck with." And then there was Alan, 10 years old. He said, "You got to find somebody who likes the same stuff. Like, if you like sports, she should like sports. And she should keep the chips in dip." He's got a lot to learn. When asked to give the right age to get married, 6-year-old Freddie said, "No age is good to get married at. You got to be a fool to get married." I think some guys are laughing a little too hard. In answering the age-old question about whether it's better to be single or married, Anita, who was 9, said, it's better for girls to be single, but not for boys. Boys need someone to clean up after them." And one last one. When asked how best to make a marriage work, 10-year-old Ricky perceptively replied, "Tell your wife that she looks pretty, even if she looks like a truck." Today I want to begin a series of messages on the home. It's been several years since I preached something about the family and the home. And so this morning I want to begin with a subject that may not be for everyone here this morning. The subject is marriage. On December 6, 1975, Denise and I were married while I was in my second year of college at the University of Toledo. In fact, we were married about 3 weeks before final exams of that winter quarter. I had a light class load and felt that I'd be able to handle taking a couple of weeks off for a wedding and honeymoon. I was only taking 3 classes. One of them was a sociology class on marriage. Well, for some reason, I didn't do any studying on our honeymoon. But when I came back, I had a week to prepare for the final exam. And when it came time for the exam, I didn't do so well. In fact, the class on marriage is the only class I ever failed in college or in high school, ever. Well, Tim was in his first year at the University of Toledo, and he was able to get his grades online. And I thought, well, let's see if we can't find my grades online. And we went on the website, and I typed in my Social Security number. And Tim's looking over my shoulder, and as he does so, the first thing that pops up on my transcript is this marriage class. And he sees that I failed it. He says to me, "Dad, you failed marriage?" And I said, "Well, let's just say the class didn't go well, but the lab seemed to be working out okay." I won't deny that in our almost 44 years of marriage, it's gone through several different seasons. We've had our ups and we've had our downs. We've experienced things that were funny and other things that made one or both of us cry. And that's really the nature of marriage. It's dynamic. And I see at least 3 stages of marriage. And the first stage is the romance stage. Almost every relationship starts off here. During the romantic season of marriage, couples demonstrate intensity. They focus on each other. Their feelings are strong. Their passions are unbridled. And yet they're a bit idealistic. During this stage, the tendency is to put your partner up on a pedestal. He or she can't do anything wrong. They write poetry to each other. In fact, listen how a love-struck man describes the love of his life in Song of Songs, chapter 4. He says, "Behold, you are beautiful. My love, behold, you are beautiful. Your eyes are doves behind your veil. Your hair is like a flock of goats leaping down the slopes of Gilead." Now remember, this is a Middle Eastern saying, okay? He says, "Your teeth are like a flock of shorn ewes that have come up from the watching, all of which bear twins, and not one among them is lost its young. Your lips are like a scarlet bread, and your mouth is lively. Your cheeks are like halves of a pomegranate behind your veil. Your neck is like the Tower of David, built in rows of stone. On it hang 1,000 shields, all of them shields of warriors." I guess you had to be there. But he continues then to describe her physical attributes, and quite frankly, I think it's appropriate that I stop right there at the end. The second stage is called the reality stage. If the romance stage is the ideal, in the reality stage, the ideal can turn into an ordeal. And suddenly what once attracted you to your spouse becomes the very thing that drives you crazy. By the way, one clue that you've left the romance stage is when you start rolling your eyes at couples who haven't reached that stage. Dullness may set in. Things are no longer as exciting. Nothing's really new. Disagreements turn into a cold war. Some of you may feel cheated and trapped. And what started out as puppy love has gone to the dogs. A pastor tells the story of a focus group that he met with to get ideas about marriage. And one of the questions he asked them was this: "What advice would you give couples contemplating marriage?" And the husband chimed in, "Bail, baby, bail." I think it's fair to say it's one of the wives who said, "Don't do it." It's fair to say that these two individuals are living in the reality stage. Kind of reminds me of another story of a young minister who was performing his very first wedding ceremony. He was nervous. And so he asked an older pastor for some advice, and the man explained to the young pastor everything he needed to do, and then he made a final suggestion. He said, "If you ever forget what you're supposed to say, just quote Scripture." Well, the ceremony was going smoothly until he pronounced the happy couple, husband and wife. At that point, his mind went blank. And that's when they remembered the advice of the old preacher. So he quoted the only verse that came to his mind: "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." The third stage is what I'm going to call the rethinking stage. The romance stage is when we think of marriage as the perfect ideal. The reality stage is when the ideal can turn into an ordeal. And the rethinking stage is when you want the new deal. And as I look at this stage, I think there are 3 different choices. The first choice is to settle for the blocks. Maybe you know that your marriage isn't that great, but you figure there's not much you can do about it. It's like what Minnie Pearl once said: "Getting married is not like sitting in a hot tub of water. After you get used to it, it ain't so hot." Some of you may have cooled off, and maybe you're just living like roommates as you pour your life into other things, ignoring your spouse. Others of you have deliberately hurt each other by launching verbal attacks and put-downs and other uncommon behavior. Choice number 2 is bail on your marriage. Maybe you can't take it anymore. You want out. You've been hurt too badly. You've gone too long with your needs unmet, and you figure it's just not worth it. I read a study that says that the average marriage in the United States is 7.2 years. And many don't even make it for a couple of months. You know, it's easier to get out of a marriage today than it is to get out of the Book of the Month Club. Friends, I think there's a better way. And you don't have to settle for the blahs. You don't have to bail. The third option is to build your marriage. how difficult it is to live with my spouse? I'm just reading Denise's mind right now. Well, I don't know about all your difficulties. I do know that it is possible to build a marriage. Ted Turner, a media mogul and billionaire, had this to say. After having done CNN and the Superstation, winning the America's Cup in 1997 and the 95 World Series with the Atlanta Braves, I feel that I can do just about anything except have a successful marriage. And I'm convinced that most of us want a successful marriage. We really do. And the problem is that some of us are so stuck that we just don't know how to make it work. Let me give you another illustration. The story is told of a guy who decided to put together the basketball hoop and his wife and daughters bought him for his birthday. The man admits he's not a very handy guy, so he had to ramp up to the task. He knew he was in immediate trouble when he opened up the box and couldn't find the instructions. Now, this is a story about me. And he first took out all the pieces, he laid them on his driveway, there were bolts and brackets everywhere, and he made this half-hearted attempt to put the backboard together, but he got stuck when the bolts weren't long enough. So he decided to be creative. He checked out the company's webpage in the hope that they would have the instruction manual online. No such luck. He went back outside, moved the parts to the different piles. Well, fortunately for him, one of his neighbors came over to help, and this guy was a lot handier than he was, and they were beginning to make some progress, but they were still stumped at a couple of key points. Other neighbors came over, they scratched their head with the two men, and then he decided to call the store where the basketball hoop came from to see someone who could help him over the phone. Well, the man at the store tried to describe what the finished product was supposed to look like, but he couldn't picture it. And so he and his neighbor decided to drive to the store, check it out for themselves, and help to see what it was supposed to look like. Well, when they got back, two more neighbors came over to help, and finally they figured it out after taking it apart several times, and when they were ready to put it up, the whole thing came crashing down and almost sliced their hands and hit them in the head. I tell you that story to tell you this. Friends, if you want to build a marathon marriage, if you want to put all the pieces together, then it's best to have the instructions. And we need to know what marriage is supposed to look like. We need to consult the manufacturer's manual if we want to have a marriage that lasts for the long haul. Otherwise, it's just a guessing game. Now, the manual has been given to us by the inventor and the designer of marriage, God Himself. And context is always important when we study the Bible. Genesis 1 gives us a complete narration of creation. Genesis 2 tells the story in order to fill in the details concerning human existence and marriage. And there are two principles for us to gain in this Genesis chapter 2 passage. The first one is this: marriage is designed by God to meet our core need for companionship. God creates Adam, breathes life into him, and puts him in the garden to live. And then in verse 18, God says, "It is not good that the man should be alone. I will make him a helper fit for him." Now this is a remarkable statement by God. 6 times in Genesis 1, after each major creation event, God looked at what He created and He said, "It is good." But now, in this expanded account of the 6th day of creation, there's a moment in which God says that something is not good. And since God sees companionship as a core need, He moves to meet the problem of Adam's loneliness. God says that He will create a helper. Many people picture someone who just brings the different chips. But that's not the idea at all. In Psalm 46:1, the word here is used of God Himself. It says, "God is a refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble." And a helper is one who supplies what is lacking in another person. God created Eve to do what Adam cannot do by himself. It's not that the man is better than the woman, or the woman is better than the man, but that each one is inadequate alone. And that's how God designed the marriage relationship. The husband and wife both need each other. Now, having said that, we might expect the next verse to say something like, "So God created Eve." And instead of making a partner, God puts Adam to work on this big zoology term paper. In verses 19 and 20, we see that Adam is told to give names to all the animals. And as he gives each one a name, God is preparing him for marriage. God is teaching Adam to be a leader. And the power to name is the power of authority. Naming the animals was part of Adam's premarital counseling session. God was also training him to be a lover. And as Adam surveyed all the animals, he saw Mr. and Mrs. Giraffe off to a side, and Mr. and Mrs. Llama to another side. Everyone had a partner, but where was his? God was creating within Adam a gnawing hunger for a life mate, a hunger God would soon meet in the creation of Eve. Look again at verse 20. It says, but for Adam, no suitable helper was found. Adam discovers for himself in verse 20 that God already knew in verse 18. He's living in paradise where he has everything his heart could imagine. He's got this cool dog named Lassie. He's got a great job. He's got this sinless relationship with God. But Adam discovered a very important fact, which is our second principle, and that is that everything else is a poor substitute for human companionship. Everything else is a poor substitute for human companionship. For Adam, even the perfections of the Garden of Eden, the joy of working there, even the blessing of the presence of God could not resolve his loneliness. In verses 21 and 23, God addresses Adam's need for companionship. So it says, so the Lord God caused the man to fall into a deep sleep, and while he was sleeping, he took one of the man's ribs and closed up the place with flesh. Then the Lord God made a woman from the rib he had taken out of the man, and he brought her to the man. The man said, this is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, for she was taken out of man. And then look at verse 22. It says that God brought her to the man. As a pastor, one of the great joys I've had in over 40 years of pastoring is to watch proud fathers escort their daughters down the aisle. I'll be very honest. When I watch dads bring their girls up to the front of the church, I very quickly say, God, thank you for not giving me any girls. I could not have done that. No way. But this is what happened in Eve. God the Father of the bride Eve was being brought to Adam. And from the story, we learn that God planned the human heart for love, marriage, and companionship. And I want you to listen to this next thing I'm going to say because it's very profound, even for me. The only thing man brought with him out of the garden was marriage. Everything else was left in the garden, but he brought marriage out into the world. One pastor has said, marriage in a fallen world is truly holy matrimony, and the only touch of paradise we will ever know this side of heaven. You see, God creates a partner for Adam from his own flesh. Having come to appreciate his need, he wakes up from his sleep. And the original Hebrew helps us to see that he's pretty pumped up. The phrase, this is now, means something like, this is it? He said something like, wow, baby, where have you been all my life? What you doing on Thursday? A rough translation. But Adam now knows he's not alone. Isolation has given way to relationship and partnership. Verses 24 and 25 gives us 4 building blocks for marriage. It says, for this reason a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife, and they will become one flesh. The man and his wife were both naked, and they felt no shame. Let's look at these building blocks one at a time. Number 1 is severance. God says, first of all, that when we get married, we need to leave our parents. And what this means is that we need to sever an emotional umbilical cord. We need to make a break with our parents so we can build a marathon marriage with our spouse. And when you get married, your spouse is to become your second priority in life after your relationship with God. And that word leave is a very strong word. It's translated forsaking other places. Husbands and wives, you are to disconnect yourself from loyalty to your parents' priorities, traditions, rules, and influence. Now this doesn't mean that you can never talk with them again. What it does mean is that your allegiance needs to change. Your loyalty now belongs to your spouse. Your partner should never have to compete with your parents. Building block number 2 is permanence. Second, God says that once you leave, you then need to be committed to permanence. And that word united, it literally means to be glued together, to melt 2 separate entities together to form a permanent bond. And that word you may hear in some ways is cleave. It is the idea of being bonded or welded together, and the union is so strong that it takes something extremely violent to dissolve it. Building block number 3 is oneness. God says next that the two are to become one flesh. And the phrase conveys the idea of partnership or oneness. And when a married couple becomes one flesh, their hearts and lives are knit together. And this unity is to be experienced emotionally, spiritually, and physically. God's objective for marriage is a loving relationship of oneness. Jesus quoted this in Genesis when he says in Matthew 19:6, "They are no longer two but one. Therefore, what God has joined together, let man not separate." Number 4 is intimacy. The final element in God's plan for marriage is intimacy. In verse 25, we read, "The man and his wife were both naked, and they felt no shame." And intimacy, what it means is that is knowing that is there and accepting it with all covering, whether it's physical or emotional, intellectual or spiritual, is stripped away. Marriage is designed to be incredibly intimate. And there's no way to hide your flaws because marriage makes you vulnerable and subject to shame. If you're married, God's intention is for you to be in a marathon marriage where you can safely be transparent and vulnerable without fear of being put down. And I'm convinced that oneness and intimacy do not happen automatically because it takes work. It involves understanding your spouse and working to meet his or her needs, which is what we're going to address next Sunday. If you don't work at it, oneness and intimacy can unravel and you just start drifting apart. I like to picture marriage on a continuum. Every marriage is somewhere between isolation and oneness. And if you're either moving toward oneness or you're moving toward isolation. And I think you can just coast for a while. If you think that, I have some news. If you're not doing what it takes to achieve oneness, you'll move towards isolation. In other words, oneness and intimacy only happen when you commit to some hard work. So ask yourself, where am I on that continuum? Are you moving toward oneness or isolation? Are you soulmates or just roommates? Are your hearts and lives knit together or are they unraveled? Whatever season your marriage is in, it can get better. You don't have to settle for the blouse or bail on your spouse. No, with God's help, we can build your marriage from the ground up. So, once again, to review, if you want a marathon marriage, you need to, number 1, severance, leave your parents. 2 is permanence, cleave permanently to your spouse. 3 is oneness, strive to be united soulmates. And 4 is intimacy. You work toward open transparency. The same man who wrote that love letter I read from earlier also kept a journal. His name is Solomon. And after writing about his love for his special lady, he wrote these words in Ecclesiastes 4, 9 and 10. It says, 2 are better than 1 because they have a good return for their work. If one falls down, his friend can help him up. Now, I was unable to find online how much stronger a rope is if you double it. But I did something that might be of some help, as it was to me. If you double a piece of 4x4 angle iron, you increase the load 43 times. In other words, one piece of angle iron can hold 2,200 pounds, but when you add the other one, it can bear 96,000 pounds. Solomon continues in verse 12 and says, a cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. If a second strand provides more strength, can you imagine how much stronger 3 strands in it? And what is he referring to here? The 3rd strand is Jesus, my friends. If you open yourself to him, as you confess your sins and shortcomings, as you surrender to his leadership in your life and your marriage, he will give you a fresh start. He will give your marriage strength. And as your marriage moves through the various seasons, the ideal of romance or the ordeal of reality and the new deal of the rethinking stage, you can really have a new deal. You don't have to settle for the blouse. You don't have to bail on your marriage. No. If you want a new deal, you need to cultivate a relationship with Jesus Christ. You need to start living according to his guidelines. You need to base and build your marriage according to his specifications. For those of you who are married, I can't say this any stronger. Jesus Christ is the most important ingredient to having a marriage that lasts for the long haul. He will not only change your life, he will enrich your marriage. He'll give you a new deal, much better than you've ever had before. If you have personally allowed Jesus into your life, then it's time to surrender your marriage to him. Ask him to be the leader of your relationship. Ask him to help you deal with the various issues that come up. Ask him to help you navigate through the changing seasons of your marriage and determine, be sold out to him. To you who are married, I want to give you a 3-part assignment this week. Please listen and fill in the blanks, or take that study home with you. Number 1, discuss what season your marriage is in. Is it in the romance, reality, or rethinking stage? 2, spend some time talking about where your marriage is on the oneness isolation continuum. And then 3, finally, I want you to brainstorm some ways that your marriage can move toward oneness. What do you need to do to have a marathon marriage? Be specific. What are those things that you personally can start doing to have a marriage of oneness? What do you need to stop doing that has been contributing to the feelings of isolation? If you want to be real daring, ask your spouse what he or she thinks you should be doing to build your marriage. The little boy sat through his Sunday school class and learned about the time Jesus went to a wedding and turned water into wine. When he got home, his dad asked him what he learned from this story. The boy thought about it for a moment and then answered, "If you're having a wedding, make sure Jesus is there." As we close this morning, I want us to close in prayer. I'm going to ask something of you. If you're married and your spouse is here, I'd like you to hold each other's hands. Can you come up here, dear? Because if I went down there, we'd be here till 3 o'clock in the morning. If you're married, take a moment to recommit yourself to a marriage characterized by leaving, cleaving, oneness, and intimacy. If your marriage may be in some difficulty, pray for God's healing power to come into your relationship. Surrender yourself to Jesus, or your spouse, to see Jesus in you. If you're a widow or widower, thank God for good memories. Ask Him for the grace you need this week. If you're not married, you want to be married, pray that God will bring the best you in His own time. Commit yourself to purity, those who are unmarried, and tell the Lord that you won't settle for second best. And if you have the gift of singleness, ask God to help you make an eternal impact in His kingdom work. Will you pray with me, Father? As husbands and wives hold each other's hands this morning, I ask that you would bless them in a very special way. That, Lord, they would be honest with each other about where they're at on that continuum. Help them to be observant to how you're leading them. Allow us to go back to the manual, the marriage instruction book that you wrote in Genesis. And allow our marriages to be everything you would want them to be. I thank you that in this church, when you look at the calendar each month, it's a joy to see those who have married for 10, 15, 20, 40, 50 plus years. I believe, oh Lord, that marriage is a blessing from you. And I pray, Lord, that sometimes the enemy tries to do whatever he can to make things hard, to break things up. I stand in the gap on their behalf and ask, oh Lord, that you will strengthen every marriage represented here today. And I pray all this in the name of Jesus our Lord. Amen. Let's close our worship if we can, please. Let's close.